Dungeon Crawler Carl is probably the biggest, it's not just probably, the biggest lit RPG out there. It's gotten mainstream success, and while we've got the fantasy genre dominated by these romantasy female authors, Dungeon Crawler Carl seemed to be the real only alternative out there that's making it into the top 10 in bookstores and the like for its sales. Now, its author, Matt Dinniman, unfortunately, is the similar leftist cancel pig to everybody else in the industry. Looks like he was going for that clout, and that's why he got to this point where bookstores actually pushed him. This is the deal. Once you go mainstream, guys, like, it's always like this. Anybody in the mainstream has to sell their soul. That's how they get that big. It is what it is. Really, really sad to hear about this because Dungeon Crawler Carl is, again, a beloved book by a lot of men who, actually are probably very, very opposed to this kind of cancel culture, this kind of leftism. You are not hitting your target demographic here, Matt. I know that the bookstores and the NPR interviews and the like might be appealing to you for at this point in your career. Maybe you've made enough money that you just want the clout, the fame, whatever. But it's really, really sad to watch this once again as a big author sells out and turns on his audience. Well, let's get into this in just a moment. My name's John Delarose, everybody. I am blacklisted from the mainstream industry. Never have to worry about that with me. I have a new book out called The Demon's Eye. This is classic sword and sorcery fantasy. If you like action adventure, a strong male lead who fights against real evil, I did this. I made it in a Silver Age sort of style of narrative right here that harkens back to the 1940s and 1960s before the industry got super political. And if you don't know about the book industry, I'm going to try to go into this in a little bit. Science fiction and fantasy has been just completely corrupted by extreme leftists, and that's why you have to go to independent authors to get something else at this point. Check it out. This is in the description below. Thank you for backing our books, guys. I really appreciate you. It's only $4.99. Read it today. And thank you so much for it's on Kindle and paperback. And again, that's in the description below for your reading. All right. So yes, the book industry is crazy, and science fiction and fantasy have been really taken over by just complete leftists. This has gone on, and it started to be noticed back in 2015, 2016, when the Science Fiction Hugo Awards were being just run by these really weirdo people who were giving awards to people like Anne Leckie, who, the entire purpose of her, quote, science fiction trilogy was to introduce pronouns, which, then, of course, got introduced to society. These people, this is like a social testing ground for a lot of these psyops that we get from the left. And so the pronoun gang started to take over everything. Science fiction became all about, exploring strange new genders instead of exploring strange new worlds. And fantasy became very, very similar. Groups like Tor Books are extreme leftist outlets. They don't really publish anything else. We saw how Brandon Sanderson went from a good Mormon guy who's like, I'm not going to put any gay stuff in my books because I oppose it. And I was like, cool, that's great. I don't want to read about gay stuff. And then suddenly he's got a new book out that's got full on gay romance, pronouns, transgenderism. And he says that, he's going to put more of that in his books going forward. Well, there's a common denominator here between Dungeon Crawler Carl and Brandon Sanderson. Both of them are actually propped up by the mainstream. They're in bookstores. They're the only books by men in fantasy that actually get pushed these days outside the classics. And so you see this, and you see what else, the other slop out there, the Sarah J. Maas sort of strong female lead with her dirty dude and all that. And you're like, okay, well, we don't want to read that. And so you're left with nothing in mainstream fantasy. And so that's where it's at these days. Everybody who says anything against the narrative gets blacklisted. They try to torch you. They try to cancel you. They try to destroy you. And this is exactly an example of that with Matt Dinniman doing this to The Critical Drinker right here. Now, this was brought to my attention yesterday. I was doing a video on, of course, men's adventure fantasy and lit RPGs and the like, which I interviewed the authors of Trailer Park Elves, who I don't know their politics and I don't care. Again, I'm not gonna go and research into people and try to litmus test either. That's not a lot. They seem to be nice people who are willing to talk and not cancel other people. That's great, and that's what we kind of want out of an author, right? I was given no choice myself. I was in the industry. They found out I voted for Donald Trump, and then very soon they all canceled me back in the day. This was in 2016. Once that happened, I had to become a commentator. But this is where it's at, and this is where The Critical Drinker has been commentating on this stuff too, because Hollywood's doing the same crap. Everybody's blacklisted. It's all political. They push this stuff in everything, and he calls it out in his reviews, and that's why he's so successful and so popular, right? And so he was big, and of course, because Hollywood's been producing a lot of slop, of course, he was not thought of as somebody to cancel for a while. And what happened was the author got him into one of his audiobooks as like a character bit actor here. So the Critical Drinker was on the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook, Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 3. It was like a minute worth of dialogue where he's like just in the background there as a character. It's like a little cameo appearance, and it's like, cool, that's nice. And he, this is probably a lot of crossover audience. I would imagine that a lot of Dungeon Crawler Carl fans are Critical Drinker fans, and vice versa. I'm sure that's the case, and so that's cool. And you know what? Here's the thing, and this is what the leftoids can't do. It's fine to not agree with the politics. It's fine to not agree with some of Critical Drinker's takes. Sometimes he does good reviews. Sometimes, I don't agree with his reviews. We can, as normal people, we can go, okay, I like most of his stuff. I don't agree with all of his stuff, and that's fine, right? And this would be the same with you, Matt Dinneman. Like, if you're a leftist or whatever, and you were just not not putting the crap into your books and not making rants about people like Critical Drinker trying to cancel them, I think nobody would care. But you did. You had to go out there, because what happens is when you get in the mainstream industry, they try to litmus test you. And so on Reddit, if you look up Dungeon Crawler Carl and Critical Drinker, there's all kinds of threads where it's like, oh, the Critical Drinker ruined Dungeon Crawler Carl for me because he existed and said a line, and I literally can't even. I was shaking, right? And that's what these people hyperventilate like all the time over everything. And so he actually responded to it on Reddit, and this is where he made his fatal flaw. He said, holy shit. I rarely comment on this sort of thing. Well, you shouldn't have commented on this sort of thing. You should have just let it go and just said, you know what, or just been like, hey, I may not agree with him on everything. He's got a good fan base. I like some of his reviews. I don't like some of his other reviews. That's fine. We don't cancel people here. If you said that, you'd get so much respect from the community, dude. This is seriously how it would go. But unfortunately, this is never how it goes. So here he goes. For the record, I didn't see the other thread in question at all. The mods removed it for whatever reason, and the mods removed the thread because it did delve into political stuff, and it went crazy and was a lot of fighting. That said, we don't generally delete threads outright unless there's a compelling reason. Criticism of me or the books or Jeff is not or never will be a compelling reason. We are all big boys wearing our big boy panties, and we can take it. But if our thread turns into some sort of political fight, we're going to lock it, because that's not why any of us are here. There are plenty of places on Reddit and the internet as a whole you can uselessly shriek at each other and not get close to changing each other's minds about what you're trying to say. Now, here's where he starts to uselessly shriek about Critical Drinker, just to show that he's not part of that team. I don't want to be part of that team. I'm part of the mainstream team. Here we go. The question on Critical Drinker's role in the book 3 has come up several times already. I've been asked about it point blank a few times at cons as well. I try to avoid talking politics. This is where it always goes. And this is always going to be a but this time I can't remain silent because the Critical Drinker triggers me. Here we go. Outside the book, because I think it's dumb for artists to turn attention away from their art to shine a spotlight upon themselves. Correct. You are right about that. Unfortunately, you're about to do so. Though I think people actually read these books along with any of my other I think if people read these books along with any of my other works, nothing about anything I'm about to say will come as a surprise. I think it will come as a surprise, because it's just action adventure for the most part, and people are not looking at this going, okay, you're obviously a Kamala Harris voter reading these books, and this is where you're going to run into a problem with your audience, brother. Here he goes. I regret that my books have any association whatsoever with him. Oh, you're so stunning and brave right there. This is it. This is what the leftists do every single time. You can't associate. You can't talk with other people. You can't exist with other people. Oh, in the name of inclusivity and diversity. It's such a hypocrisy every sinlow time. It's sick. These people are sick in the head. I hope to one day have his part in the book removed altogether. It's a distraction. And the only edgelord douchebag I want people to think of when they read my books is the AI itself. So here it is, the edgelord douchebag. He just called Critical Drinker an edgelord douchebag for calling out anti-woke, or calling out the woke slop in Hollywood. I mean, this is crazy. And by the way, I mean, calling Critical Drinker edgy, I mean, the guy's not edgy. He's pretty safe. He's not, I wouldn't say any of his takes are way out there or anything like that. So it's absolutely crazy to see this. But hey, this is where it goes. To expand slightly, here you go. He keeps going. Sometime in early 2020, digs his own grave here. They always do this. While we were prepping for book 3 in audio, Jeff asked me if I'd like to get a guest voice for the drunk dwarf guy. He knew a popular YouTube reviewer that was a Scottish guy whose persona was a drunk Scottish guy. I said, sure. I had no idea who he was. Oh, so virtuous. But I figured some guy with 500K subscribers or so could only help the series go along. Yes, and you should ignore this because of that. Now Drinker's a lot bigger, and he could help the series go along. But hey, back then, mostly he was known for his funny but sarcastic reviews of movies. He still is. That is what he's known for. Now, unfortunately, you've all made everything political all the time, and because Hollywood made everything political and he called it out, now you have to make this political. He wasn't known as the person he is today. Clearly, if this was asked of me today, I would decline. And that's how much of sniveling weasels these people are, these leftists. They will cause this, like disassociation, try to cancel everybody. They'd decline today. It's not my fault. I'm not associated with him. It's so sick. I don't play this game ever, and it's really obnoxious. But, you're barking up the wrong tree, dude, because I'm going to venture to guess that, again, you have a lot of Critical Drinker fans in your audience. I wouldn't listen to Reddit, of all people. I mean, Reddit is a problem. I would disassociate with Reddit. That's fair. I guess I would. That's the one thing I would disassociate with. But my gosh, this is a really sad thing. And guys, this was brought to attention by a viewer yesterday who sent this to me. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you in helping us get this out there. I don't think anybody's reported on this. It's been kind of quiet. This was 9 months ago, but this is Dungeon Crawler Carl. And really, really sad to see this happening with the genre. Leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And do check out my Demon's Eye Classic Sword and Sorcery. You're going to love this, guys. Check it out. Thank you so much for reading. I appreciate you all for being here, and we'll be back soon.